28 years, one envelope on the marble, and none of them mattered anymore. Aretha Scott is 52, black, elegant, a woman who builds the rooms rich men feel safe in, a luxury hospitality consultant. She reads the temperature of any space in 3 seconds. Her husband slid divorce papers past the fruit bowl and called it clean, so she flew to Seoul with one bag and a wine-colored dress. In the lobby of the Kangsong Heritage, a tray of champagne shattered. A young waitress froze. A manager hissed. Aretha crossed the marble and knelt in front of everyone. Above them, a man watched from the mezzanine, Kang Tae-hyun. They call him the Black Lion. A black lion is inked across his chest to his shoulder, hidden under a charcoal suit and no tie. He runs an empire in daylight and something darker in the dark. He does not believe in consultants. He believed in her. He starts inviting her to rooms where she should not be, because she sees what his executives cannot. And somewhere in those rooms, someone is already watching her the wrong way, already deciding she is a weakness he can use. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. The coffee had gone cold between them, and Aretha only noticed because Richard reached past his own cup to hers and turned it a 1/4 inch, as if the handle offended him. 28 years, and he still fixed things she had not asked him to fix. She set down the toast she had buttered for both of them. 2 cups, 2 plates. One of them was about to become unnecessary. "You didn't sleep here last night," she said. It was not a question. Richard folded a napkin he would not use. His silver-gray hair caught the kitchen light, thinner at the crown than it had been last spring. He slid a manila envelope across the marble, past the fruit bowl, past the salt, until it touched her wrist. "I've had these drawn up." She looked at the envelope. She did not open it. "Say the word, Richard." "Divorce." He said it the way he closed a deal, cleanly, without garnish. "I don't want the next 20 years to look like the last 20. Aretha's hand stayed flat on the marble. Somewhere behind her, the refrigerator hummed and clicked off, and in the new quiet she heard her own pulse. She had built rooms for other people to feel safe in, hotels, galas, the private dinners of men who owned islands, and she could read the temperature of any space in 3 seconds. She read this one. He had rehearsed. He had chosen the kitchen because the kitchen had no witnesses and no exits she would make a scene at. "Vanessa," Aretha said. He didn't flinch, which was its own answer. She stood. She did not sweep the cups to the floor, though the thought arrived and left like a train. She picked up the envelope, weighed it, and set it back down unopened beside his elbow. "Then you can watch me not fall apart in your kitchen." She walked out with her coffee, cold, still hers. 3 days later, she was above the clouds, then below them, then inside the humming brightness of Incheon, a boarding pass creased in her fist, and a job she had accepted before the envelope arrived. Kangsong International wanted a consultant for the reopening of their Heritage Hotel. She had said yes over the phone weeks ago, when yes still meant something ordinary. Now it meant a continent between her and a marble counter. The Kangsong Heritage rose out of old Seoul like a held breath. Gray stone, black lacquer, a lobby the size of a cathedral, where the light came down in soft gold bars. Aretha crossed it in a wine-colored dress, one bag, chin level. Bellmen straightened as she passed without knowing why they straightened. That, too, was a skill. Then the tray fell. It went down 12 feet from her. A silver tray, a full one. Champagne flutes exploding across the marble in a bright, wet crash that stopped the whole lobby cold. A young waitress stood in the wreckage, both hands frozen at her mouth, glass around her shoes like ice. And already a man in a manager's jacket was crossing to her, fast, his voice low and vicious. Stupid girl, do you know what that costs? Do you know who is here tonight? The girl's chin dropped. She started to bend for the shards with bare fingers. Aretha was already moving. She stepped over the wet edge of the spill, put herself between the manager and the girl, and crouched, in the wine dress, on the marble, in front of everyone, and caught the girl's wrist before it reached the glass. Not with your hands, quiet. To the girl only. You'll cut yourself, and then he'll have two problems. The manager's mouth opened. Aretha rose to meet it, and something in how she rose made him take a half step back. You had a runner carry 12 full glasses on a wet floor with no mat, she said. That's not her failure, that's yours. Get a broom, get a towel, and get her a chair. She turned to the girl. What's your name? So young, the girl whispered. So young, Aretha smiled, and the whole ugly moment reorganized itself around that smile. Nobody remembers the tray. They remember how you stand up after. The manager barked for a broom. 2 porters came running. The lobby exhaled and began, slowly, to move again. And Aretha, brushing a bead of champagne from her hem, felt the specific weight of being watched. She looked up. He stood on the mezzanine with both hands on the black rail, unhurried, a tall man in a charcoal suit with no tie, gray at the temples, dark eyes fixed on her the way a reader fixes on a line he wants to keep. He was not smiling. He was not frowning. He was simply looking, and the looking had authority in it, the kind that did not announce itself because it never had to. A younger man appeared at his shoulder, cropped hair, an earpiece, a thin scar near one eyebrow, and murmured something. The tall man answered without turning his head, still watching her, and the 2 words carried down the marble in the hush. Find out. Aretha held his gaze 1 second longer than a stranger should. Then she picked up her single bag, stepped clean over the last of the glass, and walked to the front desk as if the floor belonged to her. Behind her, the mezzanine stayed occupied. The consultant, the tall man said, half to himself. Kang Tae-hyun does not believe in consultants. Jaemin waited. On the rail below, a porter swept the last flute into a dustpan, and the sound of it, small, bright, final, climbed the open air between the 2 floors. But I believe in that, Tae-hyun said, and watched the wine dress disappear into the elevator without once looking away. The invitation came the next morning, on hotel stationery, in a hand she did not know. Kang Tae-hyun wanted her in the executive briefing at 9. Aretha read it twice. Then she went. The boardroom held 11 men and 1 problem. The reopening of the West Wing had stalled, and the numbers no one wanted to say aloud sat on the table like spoiled fruit. Tae-hyun sat at the head. He gestured to the chair beside his own. Read them for me, he said. She did not mean the reports. She watched the men. The one who spoke first spoke too fast. The one who agreed with everyone touched his collar each time he lied. She listened, and she wrote in the margin of the brief. When the meeting emptied, Tae-hyun lifted the page she had left behind. Her notes ran down the side in small, clean letters. He wants the contract. He is afraid of the second bidder. Watch the man who never argues. You saw all this in an hour, he said. I've been in rooms my whole life, Aretha said. Nobody looks at the woman by the wall. I do. She met that without flinching. Richard had needed her small. He had liked her best when she apologized for taking up air. This man leaned toward her when she took more of it. Over the next days, he pulled her into every room the executives guarded. She corrected a translation that would have cost them a partner. She named the vendor who padded his invoices. Choi Min-sok, the old one with the combed-back hair, watched her from the far end and said nothing. You embarrass them, Taehyun told her one evening. I don't try to. That's why it works. She almost smiled. 28 years I made myself convenient. It's a hard habit to unlearn. Then unlearn it here, he said. Build your own. Let me stand beside it. The words landed somewhere she had walled off. She looked away first. The gala came on a Friday. International investors filled the ballroom under a ceiling of gold light, and Aretha moved through it in the emerald dress like a woman who had decided to be seen. She spoke 3 languages of small talk. She made a Swiss banker laugh. For an hour, she forgot to be careful. Then she heard him. Aretha. Richard stood at the edge of a cluster of suits, a glass in his hand and Vanessa on his arm. The blonde smiled the smile of someone told a story and satisfied by it. Richard turned to the men beside him. This is Aretha, he said, my former wife. The word, former, did the work he wanted. A softness spread across the group, the pity people offer a used thing. One of the executives, a Kangsong man eager to please the investors, touched her elbow. Perhaps you'd give us the room, he said quietly. This is business. She felt the old reflex rise, the apology already forming. She swallowed it. A voice came from behind them all. Mrs. Scott stays. Taehyun crossed the floor without hurry. The executive stepped back before he was told to. Richard's smile held, then thinned, as the chairman of Kangsong International stopped at Aretha's side. I don't think we've met, Richard said, extending a hand and a version of the evening he still controlled. I know, Taehyun said. He did not take the hand. He offered his arm to Aretha instead. She set her fingers on it. He led her across the length of the ballroom, past every face that had watched her shrink, and the room rearranged itself around the two of them. You didn't have to, she said. I didn't do it for them. They stopped near the tall windows. The music covered them. I spent 28 years belonging to someone else's life, she said. I'm not interested in becoming part of another man's. Then don't, Taehyun said. She looked at him then, and the careful thing in her chest loosened a fraction. That was when she saw it. Across the room, near the service corridor, Choi Min-suk stood with his back half turned. His hand went to his wrist. He unclasped his watch, moved it from the left arm to the right, and worked the clasp shut. His eyes swept the ballroom once. Then he slipped through the corridor door and was gone. Aretha frowned. On the dais, an aide was crossing to Taehyun with a sealed folder, the quarterly figures for the investors, the numbers not yet public. Choi had left the room the moment before they moved. You're Mr. Choi, she said. Does he always leave when the sensitive files come out? Taehyun followed her gaze to the empty doorway. Something shifted behind his eyes, small and cold. Why? He changed his watch to the other wrist, she said. Then he left. A man does that when he's about to do something he'll want to say he wasn't there for. The music played on. The investors laughed at a joke she had not heard. Taehyun stood very still, watching a door that had already closed, and for the first time since she had met him, the room he ruled did not feel like his. I brought you in to read my people, he said quietly. I know, Aretha said. Neither of them looked at Richard again. The story they had been living in was not the story at all. The car took the wrong exit. Aretha felt it in her spine before she saw the road change. The city lights thinned. The driver's eyes stopped meeting hers in the mirror. She kept her hands folded in her lap and said nothing, because saying something would tell them she knew. They drove for 40 minutes into the dark flatlands south of the river. The warehouse smelled of oil and cold concrete. 2 men walked her across the floor, one gripping her elbow like she might break, like she might run. She did neither. She counted doors. She counted exits. She memorized the rust stain shaped like a hand on the far wall. Choi Min-suk was waiting on a folding chair, one leg crossed over the other. "Mrs. Scott," he said, almost gentle, "please sit." She sat. She smoothed her dress across her knees. "You must be frightened," Choi said. "A little," she said, and let her voice shake on purpose. He smiled. That was the thing she needed. The smile of a man who had already decided what she was. Weak, ornamental. A soft place he could press to make the black lion bleed. "He will come for you," Choi said, "and he will bring what I ask. Files, names, the things he keeps locked away." He glanced at his own wrist. His watch was on the right arm tonight. She noted it the way she noted everything now. "He won't," Aretha said. Choi's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "He won't come running. That isn't who he is." She tilted her head. "You've worked beside him 30 years, and you still don't know him." The words landed. She saw them land. Choi shifted his weight, uncrossed his leg, and for 1 second, his hand drifted to the watch and dragged it an inch up his forearm. There it was, the tell. The same small motion she'd caught at the gala. "You talk a great deal for a hostage," Choi said. "I talk a great deal for a consultant," she said. "It's my job to read a room. And this room is nervous." One of the men by the door laughed, then stopped himself. Choi stood. He came close enough that she could smell the cigarettes on him. "You think you are clever." "I think I'm tired," she said. "It's been a long night. You could offer a woman some water." He stared at her. Then, absurdly, he nodded at one of his men, and the man went to find water, because old habits of courtesy are hard to kill even in traitors. And while every eye followed the man across the floor, Aretha's fingers found the small gold earring at her left ear. She worked it loose. She let it fall into the seam of the chair, then flicked it with 2 fingers so it rolled beneath, catching the light once before it settled against concrete near the leg. A pin dropped for anyone who came looking, for Jamin, who noticed things, who had learned to. The water came in a paper cup. She drank half. Her hand was steady now. "Where are we?" she asked, conversational. "Somewhere no one will find you," Choi said. "Everyone finds everything eventually," she said. "You should know that better than anyone. You've been finding your way into his files for years." Choi's face went still. "What did you say?" "You heard me." She looked at his wrist. "You get nervous. You always have, and nervous men leave doors open." He grabbed her jaw then, one hand, tilting her face up. She did not flinch. She held his eyes until his own slid away first. "You will call him," Choi said, releasing her. "You will tell him where you are. You will make him hurry." "No, you will." "I won't make him hurry," Aretha said quietly, "because a man who hurries makes mistakes. And you are counting on his mistake. So I'll do the one thing you can't stand." She folded her hands again. "I'll wait." Choi turned away. He barked something in Korean at his men. Phones came out. Somewhere a door rolled shut with a boom that Aretha felt in her teeth. They moved her deeper into the warehouse, to a small office with a single bulb, glass walls, gray with dust. They sat her in another chair and left one man to watch her. He did not look at her either. To him, she was furniture. She had been furniture her whole marriage, invisible at Richard's dinners, a decoration that poured the wine. The humiliation of it rose up again, familiar and larger than before. She let it rise, then she set it down. Because invisible was useful now. Invisible women see everything. Through the dusty glass, she watched Choi pace, watched him check his watch and switch it to the other arm, watched the men glance at the loading door each time a car passed outside. She counted them, 5. She counted the minutes. She marked the earring in her mind, small and gold beneath a chair in the outer room, waiting. The bulb above her flickered. Hours passed. Her back ached. Her mouth was dry again. No one came. No phone rang. Choi stopped pacing and stood very still at the far window, and she understood, watching him, that even he had begun to doubt his own plan. Then a phone did ring. Choi answered. He listened. His face changed, drained, the color leaving it slowly like water from a cracked glass. He looked up, through the dusty walls, straight at Aretha. He crossed the floor and threw the office door open. "He's not coming," Choi said. His voice had gone strange and flat. "He sent word. He says he doesn't negotiate." Aretha kept her face empty. "So you," Choi said and reached into his jacket, "are no longer of use to me." Outside, another car passed on the road and did not slow. The bulb flickered once more and steadied, and in the gray glass Aretha saw her own reflection, alone, with no door left open and no one on the way. The earring caught the beam of Jaemin's flashlight before anything else did. A small gold curve dropped near the loading bay, half buried in grease. He knelt, turned it once, and keyed his earpiece. 2 words. A location. Inside the warehouse, Choi Min-suk slid a laptop across the table toward Aretha. On the screen, a folder waited, locked. The transfer log behind it carried a timestamp and a name. "Open it," he said. "His accounts. Then you walk." Aretha did not touch the keyboard. Her eyes went to his wrist. The watch had crossed over again, riding his right arm now, the band loose against tendon. It had been on the left at the gala, on the left when he poured Taehyun's wine. "You move it when you lie," she said. "You moved it the night the files leaked." Choi's hand covered the watch. Too late. "That log," she went on, nodding at the screen, "isn't Taehyun's. It's yours. Same hour the rival group got their copy. You built the leak, and you're standing in it." The overhead bulb steadied. Somewhere outside, an engine cut. Choi rose fast. "You know nothing about what he built. Half of what Kang owns, he took from men like me." "And half of what my husband owned," Aretha said quietly, "he took from me. So don't tell me about theft. I've been the ledger somebody else spent." The side door opened without a knock. Han Jae-min came through first. 2 men behind him, no weapons raised, only certainty. Then Kang Tae-hyun stepped past them, coat dark with the night, eyes going straight to her. Not to Choi, to her. "You're standing," he said. "I had a reason to." Tae-hyun looked at the laptop, at the log still glowing, at the watch on Choi's wrong wrist. He understood it in one breath. The old world would have ended here with a sound and a cleaner. His men waited for the signal they knew. He didn't give it. "Han," Taehyun said, "the file. All of it. Copy it. Then we call the prosecutor's office." Choi laughed, thin and disbelieving. "You'd hand yourself a spotlight." "I'd hand them you," Taehyun said, "with proof, not a grave." He turned the laptop toward Jaemin. "A body makes a myth. Evidence makes a verdict. I'm done making myths." Choi lunged for the screen. Jaemin had his arm behind him before his fingers reached it. The watch slid down and dropped to the concrete, glass cracking, hands frozen at the hour he'd betrayed them all. Nobody picked it up. They walked Choi out into the blue dark. Aretha stood a moment in the empty warehouse, then felt Taehyun beside her, not touching, only near. "You could have ended it easier," she said. "Easier isn't the same as clean." He glanced at her. "You taught me that tonight, standing there." She almost smiled, almost. Weeks later, in a bright glass office above the river, Aretha met Richard one final time. He came in his navy suit with Vanessa waiting in the car, expecting the woman he'd left. He found someone else. The consultancy, he said. The soul contacts. Those were built on my name. Aretha slid a folder across the table, the way Choi once had, except hers held signatures, dates, the truth of who had done the work. Your name opened the door, she said. My hands built the room. Every client you kept after the divorce, I found first. Richard's jaw tightened. You'd have had nothing without me. You didn't make one mistake, Richard. Her voice stayed level. You spent years teaching me that being needed was the same as being loved. He waited for the rest. It isn't, she said. She gathered the folder, stood, and walked out. She did not look back. Behind her, the door swung shut on a man learning, too late, the cost of a thing he'd never valued. That same season, a new sign went up on a door of frosted glass, black letters, clean and unhurried. Aretha Scott Consulting. She stood beneath it with a cup of coffee gone cold, reading her own name like a sentence she'd finally finished writing. The bell chimed. Kang Tae-hyun came in alone. No earpiece, no shadows at the door, no Jae-min at his shoulder. Just a man in a charcoal coat carrying a small box. He set it on her desk. Aretha looked at it, then at him, and her chin lifted. If that's a ring, Kang Tae-hyun, take it back. It isn't. He opened the lid. No stone, no band. A single brass key on a plain ring, warm under the office light. A house, he said. Near the river. The deed's already filed. He paused. In your name, only yours. She went still. You said you wanted something that was yours, he said. Aretha turned the key over in her palm. It weighed almost nothing and everything. And where are you supposed to fit into this? Tae-hyun didn't reach for her. He let the question sit. Wherever you choose, he said. For 28 years, she'd been chosen, kept, needed, spent. She'd been the door somebody walked through and the ledger somebody balanced. She had left a warehouse standing when it would have been easier to break. She had signed her own name to her own work. Now a man who could take anything was asking to be given something instead. She looked at the key. She looked at him. He had chosen her once, in a room full of people, out loud. This time, the choosing was hers. Aretha reached across the desk and closed her hand over his. Outside, the river kept moving, and for the first time in her life, so did she. On her terms. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. What does a woman owe the man who called 28 years unnecessary and slid the papers across the table? When someone finally chooses you in front of the whole room, is that the same as learning to choose yourself? And can your worth ever really depend on whether a man decides to see it? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about invisibility, dignity, and self-worth, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.